My power-tripping manager fired our quote-unquote broke intern on day 3 of his rotation. He had absolutely no idea who his dad was, and it ended up costing him his entire career. Meet Sam. When he first walked into our corporate office, nobody paid him any attention. He drove a completely beat-up sedan with a dented bumper, carried a faded canvas backpack, and wore the exact same basic, oversized blazer every single day. Our manager, Greg, hated him instantly. Greg was the type of corporate boss who survived entirely on power trips and making entry-level employees feel small. He immediately assumed Sam was just a broke, desperate college student who would swallow his pride and endure any amount of abuse just to get a line on his resume. Because of this, Greg decided to make his life an absolute living hell from the moment he clocked in. Instead of teaching him actual industry skills or letting him sit in on strategy meetings, Greg treated Sam like his personal servant. He made him run across the street in the pouring rain to fetch his specific coffee order, forced him to pick up his dry cleaning during his lunch break, and dumped a mountain of tedious backlogged data entry onto his desk that was literally impossible for a single human being to finish in an 8-hour shift. Whenever Sam tried to ask a legitimate question about the company's operations, Greg would just roll his eyes, cut him off, and tell him to go back to filing papers because he wasn't smart enough to understand the big picture. Through all of it, Sam never complained once. He just nodded quietly, took notes, and did exactly what he was told with a strangely calm expression on his face. But on Wednesday afternoon, the breaking point finally arrived. Sam was exhausted from working through his break, and he accidentally made a single, minor typo on a massive financial spreadsheet. It didn't change any of the final numbers, but Greg had been actively looking for an excuse to tear him down in front of everyone. The moment he spotted the mistake, Greg completely lost his mind. He stood up in the middle of the crowded, open-floor office, slammed his hands down on his desk so hard that coffee spilled everywhere, and pointed his finger right at him. He screamed at the top of his lungs, "You are completely incompetent, you are wasting our company's valuable time, and you are officially fired. Pack up your pathetic canvas bag and get out of my sight before I have security throw you out." The entire office went dead silent. Everyone was staring, terrified to speak up. But Sam didn't cry, he didn't panic, and he didn't even look upset. He just looked Greg straight in the eyes, smiled a very chilling smile, whispered "okay," and calmly walked out of the room. Exactly 10 minutes later, the elevator doors at the end of the hall dinged. The doors slid open, and out stepped the billionaire founder and CEO of our entire global parent company, a man who rarely visited our specific branch unless something major was happening. Greg's eyes went wide, and he immediately sprinted over, sweating through his shirt, trying to desperately kiss up to the big boss and welcome him to the floor. Greg started bragging about how efficiently he was running the department, but the CEO completely ignored him. The billionaire walked right past Greg, looked straight at Sam's empty, messy desk, and then turned around with a terrifyingly cold look on his face. The CEO looked at Greg and said, "Where is my son? He was supposed to shadow your department today as a final test before he officially takes over the board of directors next month." Greg's jaw dropped, and he turned completely pale, realizing in a fraction of a second that the quote-unquote broke intern he had been tormenting for 3 days was the sole heir to the entire corporate empire. Greg started stuttering, trying to make up an excuse, but it was already too late. Needless to say, Sam got a massive promotion, and Greg was escorted out of the building by security that very same afternoon, banned from ever working in the industry again.